Warner joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Susie Schuster in for Rich Eisen. And Kurt, thanks so much for taking the time to call in. I appreciate it.
You bet, Suze. How are you?
I'm great. How's Brenda? Good?
Oh, she's awesome. Doing great. Holding my grandbaby right now. So
I'm so happy to hear
better.
that. Say hi to her for me, please. So,
I
Kurt,
will do that.
Take me back to 1994 when you were a quarterback coming out of school. Did you get invited to the Combine?
I did not. They go through a process of grading all the players at all the different positions, and then they use that grade to say whether you're, I guess, Combine eligible or you fit the criteria. And from all my understanding is that I qualified as far as the grade was concerned. But going to a smaller school, having only played 1 year there, they decided to pass me over for some other guys that had more experience and played at bigger schools. So I didn't get that luxury. And, the other part of this that's kind of crazy is my school didn't have a pro day either. And
Wow.
so, I didn't have that chance to really showcase things. So I was talking to some guys this weekend when we were watching the Combine and people talking about pro days. I actually traveled around the state of Iowa. So when the University of Iowa had a pro day, I went down there to try to throw to whoever was trying out, whether it be a running back or receiver in Iowa State. And I would just try to find out where all the workouts were in my area. And I would drive over there and try to, figure out a way to get in there and showcase my skills to whatever scouts were there. So it was a whole different process for me back then, where I think there's a lot more opportunities now than there was back in '94.
Kurt Warner, Super Bowl champion, NFL Network analyst, joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. I see that slight really held you back, huh?
Well, there's so many different ways to look at it, whether, if I go, does that change the course of things? Do things happen earlier? And then there's a part of me that says I'm not sure I was anywhere close to being the quarterback in 94, 95 that I was in 98, 99 when I got back into the league. And so some of that may have been a blessing in disguise to force me to play other places, to get more experience, to become more of the player I would be later. So when I did get my opportunity, I was ready to thrive, as opposed to maybe not being ready and being thrown in there early and then maybe never get another chance.
Well, here's what I heard out of your mouth a lot over the weekend. I'm not impressed. I heard you talking about a lot of these quarterbacks, and I don't think anybody blew you away. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, I mean, they don't. But I'm also not a huge fan of the Combine because I think there's so many different things that go into it. First thing is you're throwing versus air. And so, I don't really know what that tells me, because you never really have to just not think and just drop back and throw it to the guy that's running. You're working with a lot of guys that you've never worked with before. And so, you're not really sure how they're going to run routes. And as a quarterback, you're taught, okay, you got to complete everything. So everything is about throwing completions. So when you're working with guys that you don't normally work with, you're going to sit there and wait and see what they do. And actually waiting is more of a harm than a help, because you're waiting and all of a sudden you're behind on a throw. But your mindset is, I just got to complete it. So, when I look at the Combine, I'm always trying to look at guys that understand how to make a throw. We saw Josh Allen throw a go route like 65 yards, and everybody's like, oh, wow. You never throw it that far in a game. That's not how the ball is thrown. There's guys rushing you. It's 5 steps. You get it out there about 45 or 50 yards. And so that's the kind of stuff when I watch the Combine, I'm like, I don't know what I can really take from it. I watch footwork, which I wasn't blown away with a lot of these guys that have spent so much time in the gun. They got to get better under center. They got to be able to be more fluid and get away from the center, and they have to have a sense of urgency. So those are the kind of things I watch in the Combine. So I think it's really tough to blow someone away unless you really understand how to make throws and you don't care about completions. But, just knowing where those guys' headspace is at the time, nobody wants to go out there and have all incomplete passes. Even if you threw them how you wanted to, you want people to go away thinking, man, he completed everything.
So in your estimation then, who came out of this Combine as the number one quarterback?
Well, again, I think you have to take everything into consideration. But if you were just going off the Combine, I thought
just
Josh
out of the
Allen,
Combine.
If I'm going off just the Combine, I thought Josh Allen looked really good. He looked comfortable. His footwork looked solid. Ease in just throwing the football. And then I thought Baker Mayfield was probably number 2. Maybe not quite as efficient as I would have liked to see him. His drops weren't as clean, but he was probably, of all the guys, the guy that understood how to throw balls the best. And I know people are listening going, what does that mean, as long as it goes to the guy? But there's certain balls that you want to throw with touch. There's certain balls you want to throw outside as opposed to inside. And that's what I'm talking about by understanding how to make throws. And I thought Baker Mayfield, showed that in his college film, but he showed that in the combine as well. So those 2 guys I thought were the best of the bunch. Didn't think Josh Rosen looked really comfortable in that setting. And I would say the same with Lamar Jackson, is that, when he didn't run and he came out and said, hey, I'm just a quarterback. I just want to be seen as a quarterback. You were hoping that he was going to come out and wow you with his ability to throw the football. He's got some technique flaws that I think he has to clean up. But don't think he did himself really, really well as far as just dropping back and throwing the football.
I understand that he doesn't want to be seen as anything other than a quarterback, but do you think he did himself a disservice by not running? Because let's face it, you want to play in the National Football League any way that you can get in, don't you?
Yeah, and I think, when it comes to the combine, especially when you look at what the combine is, people are wowed by the numbers, right? I mean, again, we very seldom come out talking, man, that guy can really throw the football. I didn't know that going into the combine. But we come out of it with, man, did you see how explosive that guy was? Did you see how fast that guy was? And that's where I think Lamar Jackson really could have helped him. So he could have wowed some people with his athleticism. And then you go out and throw well, and now guys are going, oh, my gosh, this guy is ridiculous. And we already know he's ridiculous, but I thought he had a chance in those other areas to maybe wow the scouts and grab some attention there. So even if he was just okay throwing it, it balanced out to be, man, this guy looked really, really good. But when he put all that stuff that we knew he was going to, blow out of the water, when he said, I'm not going to do that stuff, I'm just going to throw, I think it put all the attention on him throwing the football. And, when you watch him, he's a tremendous athlete, and he's got great potential. But that's just not his forte yet, as being a drop-back passer. So I felt he put all the attention on that instead of being able to showcase some of the things that make him really, really special.
In that vein, Kurt, it bothered me that Sam Darnold didn't throw. I always feel like, look, it is what it is, the combine, right? You're showing up, you're standing there. I think it made him look like a red flag with him not throwing. I appreciate he wants to wait for his pro day, but how do you just stand around watching all these other quarterbacks throw, Kurt?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's one of those deals where that's what people want to see, is they just want to see you compete, is that, how well you do or how many completions you have is not going to dictate your draft status. But they want to see you get out there and compete against anybody, anywhere, anytime, because this is what you do, that you never shy away from doing what you do and feeling confident that you can stack up with anybody. Now, I don't want to start any rumors, but I had heard from somebody that maybe he had a little tendonitis in his arm, and maybe that was why he chose not to throw. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, and if there was, I don't know why he wouldn't say that unless he thought that was a bigger red flag than, as you're talking about, not competing. Mm-hmm. So, again, I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. That would make a little bit more sense. But, yeah, I mean, I want to see guys compete. I want to see him say, hey, Stack, here's my only chance that I'll probably be up against all the guys that I'm going to be vying for that number one draft spot or number one quarterback draft spot with. I want to show you right up next to all these guys how good I can be. And, I liken it to when I went to Green Bay back in '94, and I was in camp there with Brett Favre and Mark Brunell and Ty Detmer, guys that had great college careers, but, a couple really good in the pros and Heisman Trophy winner. And I left that camp saying, man, I can play in the NFL. And why is that? Because I got a chance every day to stack myself up against these really, really good quarterbacks. And so I left with greater confidence. And that's kind of how I look at the combine, is you want to go in there, and if you can shine amongst all those great players, you just leave going, okay, I got this. I'm the guy to beat. I'm the leader in the clubhouse. So I would have loved to have seen him throw. Again, not really sure, why he didn't do that. And I know a lot of agents are always like, well, let's cater to our pro day because we've got it worked out and you know every single throw and you know who you're throwing to. But I just think there's football guys that just want to say, give me a guy that will compete at any situation possible, because that's the guy I want leading my team on Sunday afternoons.
Before I let you go, let me ask you about free agency, obviously coming up in a matter of days. Kirk Cousins, what do you think? Broncos, Jets, Vikings?
Well, I mean, I think, I think they're all going to try to get him. I think everybody's going to put their chips in the middle, understanding that, he's proven that he can play at a high level in the NFL. He's the main guy out there, and everybody wants a proven commodity over, a guy that we're not really sure at this level. So I think all of them are going to throw their chips in. Now I think it really just comes down to what does Kirk believe is the best situation for him. And to me, it's so interesting because I think Minnesota is probably the best fit, considering all the pieces they have in place, where they were last year, add a quarterback to the mix, and they have to be, one of those teams that's competing. But at the same time, if I'm Kirk, I'm looking at this and going, well, here's a team I want to stay with for the next 10 years. So even if they're not quite as close right now, what's the best situation for the next decade? And, you look at Minnesota and you go, well, okay, Aaron Rodgers is going to be there twice, every single year. I'm going to have to beat him just to win our division. And then I look at the NFC as a whole and I go, man, Arizona, great play. I mean, I love playing in Arizona, but look at that division. My goodness, if you go there, you're up against Jared Goff and Jimmy Garoppolo and Russell Wilson, just in your division. You got Carson Wentz and Alex. I mean, there's so many great quarterbacks on the NFC side that if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm going, okay, I got to make sure everything's kind of apples to apples, but I want to go to the AFC. And, I look at the pieces right now, and if I say which team is the closest right now, I probably say Denver is. Mm-hmm. Again, the Jets, great situation, but I still have to go through Tom Brady for at least a couple more years. And I even think the Browns would be a great situation because you have both the standpoint that they have a lot of draft picks. They got a chance to change this very quickly. They have a lot of money out there. You can make money in your division. I like that division. You got Big Ben right now, but he's probably just a couple more years, and then you have a chance. You're in the AFC. I think there's different ways to look at this, and I think you got to look at the big picture as much as the right now, because you want to have success for the long term.
Kurt, thank you for making this so easy. You've actually solved all the problems of the NFL just in one hit.
Yeah, right. I wish it was the case. But thanks, Suze. It's always good to talk to you, and I can't wait to see your guy. Is he ready for that 40 or what?
Oh, gosh. You know how I feel about this, right? Break 6 or no more vetoes.
All right.
Is that so wrong?
I love it. I can't wait to watch. Good to talk to you, and we'll see you soon.
You too, Kurt.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.